Hey, welcome everybody to episode five of 10 of Shop Talk Showdown with Hot Rod Rohr, his son Max. You see Eric Aune up there. This episode, I think you're going to enjoy. It's a really fun one. It's 10 trusty tools. So Hot Rod and Eric will talk about their favorite tools in the toolbox, and then at the end of the show, Max and Eric and Cody Mack are gonna debate what is the best tool that you should have on the job. And to top it off, I mean, we got some giveaways. So we have a rigid RP 241 press tool, and it's not just the tool, it's the kit, it's the case, it's the jaws, it's the battery, 2 batteries, and then we have 1 offset wrench for the second place winner, I guess you say. But you guys have a great show. Hot Rod and Max, take it away, and I'll talk to you later.
Well, thanks, John, for that nice kickoff, and thanks everybody for showing up tonight and tuning in to listen to what we have to say. So, yeah, we're gonna, take the summer off of this series. So we thought we'd end with kind of a fun one, a nice giveaway, and just kind of talk about things that I think every tradesperson, man or woman, I would say. In fact, I don't know if any of you guys follow the Tool Girl on Instagram. She's always got neat tools there, but yeah, everybody likes to talk about tools. Everybody likes to buy tools. It's probably an addiction more than anything. But so I'm going to show some of my favorite, or going to show some of his favorite. We're going to talk about maybe old versus new, and we're just going to make it fun and easy going. So yeah, a little bit of housekeeping there first. There's some information if you're having trouble with the audio or login and there's something like that. Yeah, if you want the slides of this, I'm willing to give it up. If Eric is, if you want to look at this later, something like that, we can give you the slides, no problem. And yeah, it'll be archived on our YouTube channel in a couple days. It takes a little while to process and get it up there, but if you want to, share it with somebody or look at it again, it'll be on the Caleffi YouTube channel, and also probably the hub too, John, I would imagine, or Eric. You guys keep them up somewhere, keep them archived. Okay. All right, and there's our team for tonight. Cody, I know some of you guys, he's another trainer with Caleffi. Eric and the infamous Eric in the center there, and Max on the right. That's you can see us in person. I guess we don't need that slide. All right. Yeah, so there's the tool, and that it sounds like this is a favorite out in the industry for guys that work with this every day. This rigid, wouldn't you say, Eric? Is this one of your go-to tools?
Yeah, I actually have one right here. It's a great tool. I've had it for a few years, and honestly, I think it's a must-have if you're in plumbing and heating and you're doing any amount of pressing.
Yeah, and we're going to make it easy for you to get one tonight. And then on the bottom, I've had an offset wrench like that for years. In fact, on the side of my very first truck in 1978, we had a picture of an offset wrench like that. It was aluminum one, it was a silver one. I don't know if Rigid made that or Reed came out with the first one. I always thought Reed invented it, and then the patent expired and Rigid came out with it. But regardless, it's a really handy wrench. I mean, people look at that and say, well, why'd you ever need that wrench? But I'll tell you, once you use that offset wrench, it's the one I would grab all the time when I was piping, whether I needed to get into a tight spot or not. It just seems like it just feels good in your hand, and it just fits in spaces really well. So we got, I think, a 14-inch. We're giving it
12-inch, so bigger than the 6-inch.
Yeah, a little bit bigger than that. We should put a pencil in there for scale. That's a 6-inch, which, to be honest with you, if you're doing half-inch pipe, gas piping, that's plenty of wrench, so you don't over tighten, especially if you've got an apprentice that's a little eager to get the thread to bottom out, so you don't see any more threads on there. So, all right. So yeah, we're going to talk about smart tools, classic tools, old tools, new tools. So the showdown is going to be your truck's on fire. Which tool would you grab if you had only a chance to get 1 or 2 out of there? So there's a little bit of debate. We're going to talk about that on there. So I'm going to be the classic tool side of the argument, probably. You can probably tell I'm one of the older guys here. So I tried to look up the history of tools, and there's a lot of different information out there. But the oldest I could find is, they said, evidence of tools going back 3.3 million years. I don't know what that would be. It would maybe it's this cutter here.
That tool in there.
That might have been my grandfather's tool, but I think a lot of us learned about tools, Stone Age tools, from the Flintstone there, watching them on television and taking his bowling ball out there. But this, while it's on the screen here, some people might recognize that's a 3-wheel cutter, and that's for steel pipe, by the way. And it's a cutter that if you only have a little bit of room to move it, all 3 wheels are cutter. There's no roller on it. The downside of that is they wiggle and you don't always get your grooves lining up. So they take a little bit of practice to make sure that you get a nice, straight, clean cut across the pipe when you use a 3-wheel cutter like that.
So that old school handle and everything too.
Yeah, and the thing weighs probably 15 pounds. Made out cast iron or something. So. Yeah, so tool have been around a long time, and there's again some of my oldest tools there, but 2 of those you can see are 3-wheel cutters. And what I like to do is when I go to the supply house, people that invent tools like plumbers or whoever it might be tries to sell them at the at the counter first. Oh, I invented this little tool. Can I put it on your counter and see if I can sell some? And I've done that too. I'll show you one that I invented years ago. But that one in the center, I bought that. And I've never seen one since there, but it's another. Yeah, thanks, Max. It's 3-wheel cutter, but it's like a pliers. So you just go up to your pipe and you clamp it on. Like I say, you only have to move that, not even a quarter of a turn, an eighth of a turn, and it'll cut through because it's got 4 cutter wheels. In fact, they got chips in them, so I probably can't even find wheels to replace it. But if anybody's seen one of those, what we call it, cubby cutter, C-U-B-E-R. Cubby. Sometimes they're named after the people that invent them or build that. So. And then the top one there isn't just an old tubing cutter. It looks like a reed tubing cutter. So well used. They've got some miles on them, but they don't build them like that. Well, I shouldn't say that. The rigid tools do seem to be as sturdy as they were from day one because people put cheaters on them all the time. And I think rigid realized that from moment one that pretty much every wrench they make, somebody's going to put a piece of pipe on it or something. So they still make a pretty good wrench in my opinion. But a lot of the other, spin-offs are pretty cheap. And so I've had some Harbor Freight tools where the first time you put a cheater bar on it, you get one shot with that tool. So the downside of all these big heavy tools is when you move, which I did here recently about 3 months ago now, and you end up with like 10,000 pounds of tools on your trailer to move because they're all made out of steel and iron. So all right, now let Max talk to this one.
Yeah, this was one that we found on Instagram this week. So a Caldwell plumbing and mechanical shot, which I thought was pretty cool because this is definitely something that we really like, that prefabrication of press stuff with the hydro separator in the middle there. And then you just have one nice component that you can mount on the wall, and you can do this from the comfort of your shop at home or something like that. But I just thought that was a nice picture to kind of bring the rigid press and the Caleffi pieces together to show all the different things that you could do with that before you even roll up to the customer's house, which is always nice.
Well, I'd like to see how people put them in. Like I'm curious what he's doing on the bottom there, where he's got a street L and he's got, looks like a valve coming off the side. Maybe it's a fill and expansion is going to go on the other side. But it's always curious to see how people use these and how they prefab them and stuff like that. And nice to have with the big header and the reducers out the end. It's I don't know if it's replacing all that iron pipe behind it there or what's going on with this, but yeah, we know that name. We know he's a big Caleffi user, so thanks for allowing us to use this. If he's on tonight, let's see.
There's definitely 2 boilers, so I'm gonna have to look that up because that looks like a cool job.
Yeah,
There's 2 boilers on the supply side. You can see he's got 2 T's with the reducers, and
yeah,
pretty cool.
I just asked them to use the one.
I'm gonna look that up.
It's a slider of 3 photos, so maybe there's a little bit more detail about that job there.
And sometimes, I look at those and I scratch my head, like on the other side, well, where's the pump? I see a lot of branches going off, so every branch must go to a pump because with the hydro separator,
like it's
you need
flanged. That one looks like it's got.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Those are all
flanges
flanges, maybe Webstone flanges. Yeah. So it's a zone pump, but yeah, now we're all curious about what that's.
The rest of the webinar will just be us looking at
coming up with the thing. So now it's Eric's turn to talk to us a little bit about some of his favorites.
We'll get the video ready to share here, Eric, if you want to just kind of tell us what.
Set it up a little bit.
Yeah, so I described what the tools are in the video pretty well. At least I tried to. I used the screen record function of my phone to show this. It's a video I posted on our Instagram a little while ago from Mechanical Hub. These are not necessarily new tools. They're called the Testo Smart Probes. I think they've been around for a few years, but to be honest with you, they're new to me by about a year. I've only been using them for one entire heating season, and it took me about maybe a day to realize that I couldn't live without these tools. So I wanted to share these tools for anybody that does heating or AC work, or if you ever have to check temperatures on pipes. These are clamps that connect to your phone via Bluetooth and a free app, and they work almost flawlessly, it seems, and the battery life is crazy long. So just look at how I use them in this video. I think they're pretty cool.
All right, let's watch it. Yeah, I thought maybe they wired to a meter or something, but they're just on their own.
Okay.
All right.
Here's a quick look at the Testo smart probes. I'm checking temperature across a piping circuit to verify the pump is operating properly and that the speed selection is correct. I can do that by connecting to these probes through Bluetooth. Here's the Testo app. I've got a 99.2 degree supply temperature, 89.5 degree return temperature with a 9 or 10 degree delta T, which is perfect for a thin slab radiant floor. There you go, Testo smart probes, pretty cool.
Yeah, I like that because I've had the field piece with the thermocouples, but you got to tape them onto the pipe and put insulation over it, and then you got to have the meter. This is great. I mean, this is again how technology evolves and so
I had
simple.
the wired type too, but I had to connect to a meter, and I was always looking for the little temperature wire, the K adapters, or they would break, or just couldn't, they're all tangled up. And then for some reason, I didn't know about these, like I said, until about a year ago. And now, honestly, there are others in the industry. I'm sure they're great. I just happen to buy these two, and I wouldn't do without them.
Yeah, even a domestic hot water system to see what the recirc coming back, you're supplying the recirc, and if those are nowhere near the same spot, it'd be nice to have a wireless option.
Yeah,
one thing that gets overlooked a lot of times is the fact that there may be gauges on a boiler system or on a domestic hot water system, and a lot of times these residential systems don't have very high quality temperature gauges on them. And I guess I enter the job every time thinking I'm not going to trust whatever a gauge says, because I think they're all kind of just junk. And if they've got any miles on them, if they're old. So I trust these things. They seem to work really, really well. It just takes a little more time. You're measuring by conduction, so it's maybe not the fastest thing.
But they're probably simpler and quicker than dragging out your infrared camera, waiting for it to boot up and getting it to, the crosshairs and putting some black tape on it. I mean, you take these out of the box and away you go. So
right,
probably less money too. All right, great. Yeah, this is another example of a tool that I came across, and I just went there before we started tonight, and this company is still around. It's like a machine shop, and they actually make a lot of torque meters for a lot of different things in the industry. But what I like about it's a no-hub wrench, but all the other no-hub wrenches had that little wing that's either flipping out when you don't want it and jamming on things, or when you try and get it to unclip, you got to hit it on something and you end up bending it. But this one, you just slide the over the hex there and it locks it. So if you want to, back off, and then it's a torque wrench when it's in this position. But it's really nicely made. You can see it's probably CNC machine, but it's made out of aluminum and it's got a nice, grip and feel to it. So another example, just a tool I saw on a counter one day and grabbed it, and I've had it all these years, and could be 40 years old at this point. I don't know. Actually, it's got a date on it. It looks like it says 3 of 90. So been around. Yeah. So. Now these three, let's see if anybody can guess what these are. One's pretty obvious there in the center. I think everybody that's put in a stainless steel sink recognizes the LK clip wrench or clip screwdriver, whatever you might call it there. But the one on the upper right, Eric, you know what that one is, or Cody, the orange thing? And again, it's one that I saw and I'd never seen it since then.
Is it some kind of like a wing nut wrench or a drain wrench? I don't know what it is.
You're close. You're really close. It puts the incinerator clip up on the thing. You know how you're trying to hold that up there, get the clip on. You just put the clip in there and you push it up on that try thing, and away you go. You don't have to wrestle with it. But again, I don't know who made that.
Well, I prefer letting it sling across the kitchen cabinet about 14 times before I finally get it to cling on.
Or drop to the bottom of the vanity or the cabinet about 6 times. And,
yeah.
And then this one, there's another. I should open it up to the audience.
I have a guess on this one.
All right.
Oh yeah, I'll be quiet.
Anybody in the audience want to take a shot at what this might be? Well, maybe I'll just show it a little bit. It might give it away. Again, I don't know if there's a name on that, but it's really handy once you know how it works and what it's for.
Let's see. A solder remover is one guess.
No,
Yeah, that's our guess so far.
no,
All
I
right.
don't see the right answer.
What's your guess, Eric?
I think my guess is wrong. I thought it was an igniter for a torch, but I guess maybe I was wrong.
So what it does, it's a Delta faucet rebuilder. You put the little spring and you put the cup on there and you put it in the valve and it pounds it right in there to where it needs to go. It lines it up and puts it in there, especially when you got one in the shower wall that you're doing sideways like this. You know, you're trying to get the spring and then your finger and get the cup in there. You just load it on there and see we got a little ridge that holds it on there. So if you have to do something this way, and you just squeeze it. So yeah, Delta should be making those.
I'll be honest, I thought that the only tool for that was a number 2 Phillips screwdriver because I could never, ever figure out a better way to do that. I didn't know there was a tool for that. It does look like an old igniter though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I know you're holding it, so it looks different to you in person, but on the screen, it reminded me of an igniter at first.
Yeah, or a smoke pencil or something like that. But no, it's a Delta faucet. And then again, somebody invented that and had it made somewhere and tried to sell them and obviously didn't sell a million of them or they'd still be around. So
it's got enough spring that you could use it to vaccinate somebody too.
Yeah, there you go. For a COVID injection. The plumber should be doing that.
Sneak up behind somebody.
Now here's one that I built and thought I was going to get rich doing this. I thought, oh yeah, everybody needs one of these, but now you know how many people are doing threaded flanges anymore. But I welded this thing up so it goes in a flange and it has a fine thread nut, so you can, if you're doing a flange that happens to be this way, a pump flange, you can bolt it on there. And then I made it so you can put a ratchet in there, or you can, as you can see, a big pipe wrench on there. And if you've got a flange that you're trying to screw on or unscrew more often, one that's on there pretty tight. And I had, I don't know, 50 of them made, and I was selling them and giving them away finally to people. But yeah, that's again just something that I couldn't find. And I think somebody else made a flange too after a while. But again, that's 2 pounds of steel there. All right.
It looks like it beats a big 2-foot pipe wrench is what you'd normally have to use to do that.
That's why I put such a big nut on. You can see I must have put a pretty big wrench on there that it's all chewed up because some of those flanges, as you know, kind of weld themselves on after time. Yeah, and I think this was my grandfather's vice, and I've hauled this from New York to Missouri to Montana to Utah twice. It's been everywhere with me, and in fact, I have to take it apart to even lift the thing. It's just a big chunk of iron, but I remember my dad using this, and he used to, back in the day, squeeze U-joints on drive shafts with this thing. It's got that much, beef to it that you could put a couple socket wrenches on your U-joint and, pop it out and pop a new one in with this vice. So I've seen these on eBay from time to time. Now, the same brand and that number, it's a Meridian, Connecticut or something it was made, but and the
F from 1906.
Yeah, and you can beat on the back of it too. It's got kind of an amp. In fact, I was using that vise today to squeeze some copper. So, and here's another one that I saw. This was on the counter of one of my favorite suppliers in Missouri, and I kept saying, how much is it? How much is it? It was a lot of money. It's a little ratchet vise for holding pipe. I don't know if it's got a V shape on the bottom of it, and I just kept bugging them. Finally, they said, here, we'll just sell you the display one because nobody's buying this. And but yeah, it's really handy. If you push that handle down, it springs open, and you press it down, click, 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 and then pull the handle up, and it gives it a little bit of pinch. And it doesn't egg shape your tube when you put it in there. They made it so it gets just the right attention on a copper tube when you pull it down and pull the ratchet forward. So if you're soldering or sanding your copper or something like that, I don't think it would hold enough to thread because it's just smooth jaws on the top and bottom. But that's on the other end of my vise, the opposite end of the where the big vise is.
What's the little mobile one called, Eric? The pipe vise or something?
The one that you're always showing.
Vise. Yeah,
that's like another kind of cool take on
that's it. Yeah, it is, and it's a great tool. Absolutely, it's kind of like an inverted pipe wrench with a base that will, sit on a bench or on the floor or whatever, and it's just super, a spring-loaded job, just super useful tool.
It's not made by Rigid though, is it? Is it?
No, it's made. The company itself is called Pipe Vice as well.
Oh.
So I think they're based out of Texas. They import them. They have them made, in another country, and import them. And they're everybody that's got them just seems to love them. I know I've had mine for a few years, and another one of those tools. I guess I hadn't thought of bringing it up for this webinar.
Yeah, as we were taking the pictures that came up, I was like, that's another kind of cool take on a device that would be portable. It's not a bench mount like this.
Because we've seen them too that go in like receiver hitches where you plug something in the receiver hitch and to put your, your old style pipe vise on there and stuff. But
Yep.
These little portable ones that you can take into the basement or into the job with you are pretty handy.
They're like a third hand, really.
Yeah.
All right, should I just hit play on this one, or do you have any? You wanna
cue this one up?
Well, so I know that this is the cordless version of Hot Rod. You have REM's pipe bender, don't you?
Yeah, I got one. I visited, I think it was in 1992, the ISH show, and I met the REMS people over there, Thomas Kidding or something like that. I think his dad or grandfather started that company, and we got to talking. I saw this pipe bending thing. I said, well, can you bend just regular, rigid copper? Oh yeah, I said, you don't have to soften it. You don't have to have special copper. And so I got home to the US and he sent me one, and I thought, this is great. I wish it had a bigger, to do 1 1/4 inch, and they made an aluminum 1 1/4 inch, jaw for it or whatever you call it. The only thing I would say about the one that you've got there, Eric, I was using mine on a cold winter day, and I dropped that little pin that goes in there, and that ball shattered on the end. So I ended up welding a T-handle on mine, which is actually easier so sometimes you get it jammed and you got to really wrench on it to get it out there if it doesn't back off far enough. But yeah, that little hard plastic ball will shatter on a cold winter day if you drop it on the concrete. So that's all I did is
well, it's a great note because you can see the snow in the background. So. Yeah, so this is the REMS. They're a German company. Their factory's in Stuttgart, Germany, right down the road from Mercedes-Benz. And they have been in business for like over 100 years. I'm only familiar with some of their older tools that have been around for a very long time. And I own now a few of their tools because I'm becoming a fan of it. This is the cordless version of what is also available as a corded tool. And I love it because it's already started to save me money on jobs, and I'm getting better and better at bending. And it's just kind of put a smile on my face. I mean, I don't have to own a tool to smile, but it's kind of reignited my passion for putting in boilers and stuff a little bit, believe it or not. But what's important is that it's paying itself back, and I think it's a really cool tool to own. We don't see a lot of pipe bending here in the US, but I'm doing it on my jobs almost all the time.
Well, and that, you see a lot of the Europeans. In fact, who was that guy who was in Switzerland or France or something that put that just incredible pipe bending where he had all the different radiuses and stuff like that. But yeah, they do a lot of bending over there, and REMS makes the whole setup. So I got that, and then he sent me I think it's called a hurricane twist, where it'll expand like a T-puller, kind of like a T-drill, but it also had an attachment there, so if you made a bend, you could flare the both ends and make a long sweep 90. So now you don't have to have a fitting at all. You can make your T, you can make your coupling, you can make your bends, your offsets, and everything. So my goal when I first got it, and it was novelty, it wore off after a while, but was to try and do a job without any fittings, trying to make my T's, trying to make my L's, trying to make any offsets I was making, try to do it. Now it takes a little bit of time, especially when you're first starting out with it. I think the guys that get used to it probably have the number in their head to make everything come out. So I wasted a bit of copper doing it. And another tip is it won't bend old copper. You take a piece of copper that's been around for 30 years, and for some reason, even with WD-40 or lube on it, it just either puckers or breaks, and something happens to copper over time. But I haven't had much luck bending old copper.
But you would bend PEX for jobs too.
Yeah, I would take the Kitech and then the Fostapex and make my, where it comes out of the concrete, make those little bends out of some 1 inch and then slide your 1/2 inch PEX up
nice
to.
With the like 1 inch or whatever for the mechanical room piping is always a good look with that.
I've actually bent some steel pipe with it too. It'll bend up to 3/4 like gas line piping. I don't know if you're supposed to bend gas piping, but for little projects around the house or something, you can bend steel pipe with it too. But yeah, let's see what, let's run it. Do it.
Hard 1 inch type L, REMS Accu Curvo 22 volt. Boom.
Great. I mean, that's exactly, you know, where you can get a bunch of bends in one piece of pipe, you get your offsets, you get your curves and everything. Now, another thing interesting about curves, like if you go to the CDA, the Copper Development Association website, if you put a bend in, I think it's eight diameters, either 6 or 8 diameters, it doesn't count as an L when you do your equivalent length, when you're figuring out piping. You go, okay, I got, you know, 80 feet of pipe, I got 16 elbows and stuff like that. If you make the sweep long like that, because when we do pecs, we don't count every bend in our pecs on our loop ends as, you know, 2 elbows, do we? So the same thing, if you make a long sweep like that, it doesn't cost you a pressure drop, or you don't have to add it to your calculations when you're counting up fittings and stuff like that. And you know, I've had limited success with type M. It tends to pucker on the inside when you bend it. Sometimes it'll work, sometimes it won't. But if you're doing like a TMP line or something like that, you might want to use M. But I would, like Eric said, I would definitely go with type L, so you don't end up throwing away a lot of copper because it didn't get a nice smooth bend. Because what you're really doing is you're stretching the outer and pushing together the metal or the copper on the inside. So that's where, if it's not enough wall thickness, it starts to bunch up a little bit on the inside. So type L or certainly type K would work if you got a lot of money.
Yeah, well, one thing too to note, I think that everybody needs to know that you need to check your codes. So whether you're in Canada or the US, whether you have a state code or you're in a national code or something like that, there are some restrictions in some places. I've heard, at least that's been communicated to me online. I know here in Minnesota we're allowed to bend copper tubing, but it can only be type L copper, and so it's perfectly within the UPC that allows for that.
Yeah, and in fact, I think the importer for this tool is up in Minnesota, isn't it? Is it Teal Industries or Teal, something like that? Somebody that if you have a problem with it, they repair them, because I sent mine back once and they rebuilt it for me, put new whatever cords and brushes in because it was a corded one. But so there is support here, which is nice. Sometimes you get tools from across the ocean that nobody will work on it or, you know, have a part for it. So it's nice that they support it and, you know, they answer questions and stuff.
Yep, absolutely. Yep, they're based in Apple Valley, Minnesota, which is just south of Minneapolis, so right there in the Twin Cities.
Yeah. And here's a couple interesting different things for, you know, getting the pipe straight, level, and plumb. So everybody recognizes the little level on the top. This was something I saw on, I don't know where I saw it, on a website or something. This is if you're, it's mostly for guys that weld into pipe and stuff like that. You can put this on and level it up, and then it's a center punch. So once you get it where you want it, it'll punch it. So if you're going to drill and put, you know, weld a lead, or if you're maybe with your T-drill, if you want to get them all in the same plane, because the T-drills, you know, tend to wander a little bit. So, and you can even set the, you know, if you want an offset or something like that, you get it level. And then if you want to go up 45 degree or something, it's got the little bubble, and a nice, again, a nicely made little product. Somebody CNC's out of a chunk of aluminum, it looks like, but yeah, that's handy. And the tool I wish would come back. Now this one that they sent me years ago to try it out, and this is a laser hole shooter. So you drill your first hole. Let's say you got to do a bunch of holes through joist or even a wall or something like that. You drill your first hole, then you screw this in there, and it just shoots a laser beam. So it keeps shooting the center of the hole, and you can actually put some grade into it. So if you got a drain line that you want 1/4 inch per foot, you can adjust it up here. So you get the first one and say, okay, 1/4 per foot, and then you can see the bubble turn. Get your grade, and then it'll shoot up or downhill so you can get the pitch. And I don't know why that wasn't around very long. It wasn't that expensive, and it's a great little tool. It's I would like to see them bring that back. I think every time I show that to somebody, they say, yeah, where can I get one of those? And I've seen a couple on eBay a couple times, but I think the ones that have been out there have been bought up, and people probably enjoy them once they have them. So
I think on Eric's slide here too, you do some of that with a 3-axis laser too, that I'm seeing kind of down the length of the building too, right?
Yeah, if I can use a laser at any point in time, I'll use it. I think, you know, some people give me a hard time. I see pictures of it or whatever and say, oh, it takes longer to set up the laser. And, you know, I don't agree. I think it takes longer to make things straight when they're already crooked. So it takes me a second or two. Once you learn the tools and once you learn how to, you know, how you can use them and what works for you, just there's no better. I think, you know, some of the highest level of satisfaction for me is when I stand back and everything's straight, nice, plumb and level, and, you know, and it just takes a few seconds to do that. And these new cross-line lasers or 3-axis, you know, these things are great. They're amazing, and they're so compact and powerful. I love them.
Yeah, my wife makes fun of me because I will use that to hang
Pictures.
pictures.
Oh,
at the
I don't
house and
think
go
I've hung a
all
picture
day.
in my house without one in 10 years. They're the
Well,
best.
on the tripod and
Yeah,
everything lined
in
up.
fact, we've got it right over here. In fact, when you put the picture up and you get it level and plumb or however, you can even put those stickies behind it so it doesn't
Yeah,
scoot
little,
around anymore, the
sticky
ones that are
tack on
supposed
the
to peel
corners,
off. So now the pictures go up perfect and they stay perfect, which back in the day you kept backing up and then you put 3 or 4 on the wall and you got to keep adjusting. And not everybody's eye sees level the same way as what I've learned. You know, my wife would say, okay, it's right there. And I look back and say, well, the corner of the wall, and
Yeah.
the picture them, one of the two is off,
That's
either the
not
wall's
level.
off or the picture. So it's in the eye of the beholder when you try and eyeball something. But yeah, this makes it, like I say, we bought one when we moved to back to Utah here. We were using it for all sorts. I got it out in the yard trying to do my irrigation and
At night.
at night, yeah. But yeah, it's a crazy. Probably the neighbors say, "What's going on over there with all these lights flashing?"
Snipers on the hill.
Yeah.
You know, there's a dozen different kinds of these, you know, more than that, of these little crossline lasers. And I'm colorblind, so the green is the only kind I can use. I can't, you know, I lose the red line so easily in different lighting conditions or whatever. But in my opinion, the green is better. However, it is proven to be brighter. So, you know, I think it's just more, you know, I think more people like the green over the red. Usually they're more expensive, the green are, and
Yeah.
because I guess the diodes are a little more expensive to make, but they're rugged, they're tough. You can get them run on AA batteries or tool batteries or whatever. And honestly, if you're doing any kind of piping installations, or I don't care if you do carpentry work or whatever, but obviously I think the people that are watching tonight are doing some kind of piping. And if you're not using a laser, shame on you. You're making things so hard on yourself.
Well, and like you say, the prices come down a lot since there's more brands in there. But I think we bought a DeWalt or something like this. And going back to that Sibilia hole shooter comes with I thought they were 3D glasses for watching Neil Young movies or something. But I guess those make the laser show up better or something in the low light. Is that what
Low
they're supposed
light,
to do?
yeah, I
I've never
guess,
used
yeah.
them. As you can see, they're pretty dirty. But they came in the box with that little with the little hole shooter laser.
Yeah, the red ones just get lost on me. I can't see them.
Now the
Yeah.
green's the way to
Yeah,
go.
the
And it
green it's easier to
seems
get
like a
light.
thicker line or something too.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just because of my sight, but I like the green one. I'm glad I waited until they came out with the nicer green ones.
I think we covered the
Yeah, I think we did that a little bit earlier, but
cutters
I mean,
here.
just on the list there, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to cut the metallic tube, whether it's copper, whether it's gas line piping, whatever it might be. You know, I've got all the tools. I've got a chop saw that I've used forever. You know, I got the little bandsaw, the porta band. I don't have a cordless. I wish I would have bought a cordless when I bought that, but reciprocating saw with a fine tooth. Certainly a lot of different type of cutters and stuff out there, but it's hard to have just one tool. And I think, Eric, you've got a picture of the little Milwaukee powered cutter coming up, but close quarters, you got to have some of those. But yeah, this here is a pretty impressive little tool.
Yeah. Yeah, these
Yeah.
things have been around forever, and I kind of slept on it for a number of years, and then decided to buy one. And again, one of those tools I got my hands on, I used for about a day, and I thought, where, you know, why didn't I buy this immediately when it was available? And so now I keep a couple extras just in case. Like, I don't know, maybe a truck will run it over or something, or maybe my van will start on fire, and so I'll have a spare in my
There
shop.
you go. All right, let's play this video.
All right, let's see what you've got here.
I cut open the floor to get to this pipe that feeds a radiator that we're removing from this heating system. That ceiling below is only a couple inches away from this copper pipe. You can see me get in there with my press tool just fine. I wouldn't want to use a torch in this situation because those floor joists are almost 70 years old and certainly would catch fire pretty easily if you're not careful. Having a torch in this situation is not ideal. The press tool really shines.
All right.
But yeah, there was a cutter and a press tool all in one. And I suppose to round it out on the tools on my list was the press tool. And like I said earlier, I've got a couple of them. I use them all the time. That cutter right there, that's pretty awesome. That's a cool tool. I wouldn't be without it when it comes to repetitive cutting over and over. Clean cut, cutting the tubing the way it's supposed to be cut. I know a lot of people use band saws and stuff to speed it up. But you know, it's easier to prep a piece of copper that's been cut with a proper tubing
Yeah.
cutter. That's for sure.
That's true. Yeah. Good point. All right. Yeah, somebody told me once, you don't need a drill. What you really want is a hole. So, I mean, these are just different ways of getting there. And that's the one that I learned on the very left there. And I remember working with my dad when I was a little kid, and he'd get that up between a joist, and he'd have me get a 2x4 behind it because he didn't have a sharp bit, and I'm pushing against the back of that thing. And man, that thing just lasted forever and forever, that thing. I think you can still buy from Milwaukee that one that's on the left. For some reason, electricians like that. I don't know if it's light or whatever, but then somebody came out with this jaw-breaking, tooth-chipping hole hog idea with a, let's see how short of a handle we can put on a power tool and put a big spur bit on it and see how we can launch people off ladders. But people still use that, but it just drives me crazy that that's probably one of the most, not quite a widow maker, I wouldn't say, but man, it's probably launched a lot of people. But then I think DeWalt or Black & Decker came out with that Timberwolf after that. And I said, well, now this makes sense. Look at the length of the handle on that. So they put a longer handle on it so you could hold on to it. And they also put a clutch on it on the low speed on the 300 RPM as a clutch. So if you're buying a big hole saw like you see in there, you know, it ratchets instead of launching it across the room. And then when they came out with that Timberwolf, they had a pro version for a while that was a polished aluminum. It was supposed to have better gears and stuff. And then I don't know about that, but it was all buffed out and polished, and they call it the Timberwolf Pro series. But I think DeWalt took that over now, and they make a yellow version of that. But you know, if you want a good angle drill, in my opinion, you want one with a little bit of leverage on it. And the other ones are good for stern paint maybe, or sheetrock. But
The Widowmaker is what
Knocking
we used to
yourself
call
out.
that wood 8-foot ladder that you had. I think
Yeah.
finally made it to the dumpster when you moved, right? It
yeah,
was just
finally
the
burned.
ricketiest old wooden ladder that had just been like all over every job site or all over the property for years.
The key, I think, with drilling, you know, a lot of holes is a sharp bit. And I used to keep a die grinder on my truck and just always touch up. Now, it took a little bit of metal if you weren't careful with it, but just hit those spur bits around it and the chip lifter, which is the part on the bottom, and it makes your life a lot easier if you take a couple minutes and sharpen your bit before you start. It's easier on you and the tool, especially if you're drilling all day. Any thoughts or anything? Where's Cody? Cody's not chipping in on any of this stuff.
I actually have a Timberwolf drill. It still works. It needs a new cord. It's probably needed a cord for 20 years, but it works. Every time I hit the trigger on it, it's lived a long life and seen a lot of rough ends. But every time you hit the trigger, if you're up even close to your face, you're gonna hit with like sand that comes out of the motor because it probably was dropped in like some basement dirt at some point in time. But it's also knocked me off a ladder more than one time. I did have a black eye from my Timberwolf, and I know you said that there's a clutch in it, but when you get into these old houses that have like that, I call it ironwood, like that wood that's like
old growth.
yeah. You know, your hole saw or your auger, you know, your self feed or something gets bound, and it will still jack it a little.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you still have to hang on.
Top of your step ladder and your head in the joist space or something, and you're pushing, like you said, with the 2x4, you're always using a terrible bit. And so you're up there trying to push as hard as you can with no leverage, and then, you know, knock me off the ladder. I had a black eye for, I swear it had to have been a month from my Timberwolf. But honestly, the thing is it's probably older than my plumbing career, and it still works just fine. It was, you know, it's a real tool made to last, and it's heavy. It's got a cord on it, which I don't like.
Yeah, but you're right. They're just the workhorse are meant to last. What I learned is when I moved to Missouri, I started drilling a lot of oak joists because they made a lot of floor joists and things out of oak there. And yeah, you're right. When they get 50 years old, they're like drilling through steel. But what I learned from I don't know, an old timer out there said, your feed on your bits, he said, get a fine feed instead of the coarse one, and it won't try and pull in and take too much wood too quickly. And so I went online and found you can actually get a fine thread for the center of the, I don't know if you can see one in the box there, and then it doesn't pull it through so quick, and you know, the cutting will keep up with the drill and the hard wood like that if you don't go in too fast. So just something I learned. So, all right. Yeah, I mean, if there's one tool that, you know, I understand the cord, and I'm buying more corded tools every time I have to replace a tool. My Sawzall, I bought a circular saw when I moved here to Utah, so I'm going more with the cord. But I got to tell you, if you're doing a lot of chopping, or if you got an 1.5-inch roto hammer bit on that. I'm, convinced that a cord might still be the tool to have for drilling through concrete. What do you think?
Yeah, concrete tools are improved so much over the last few years, and they've got some really big, powerful batteries. But you're right, if you're going to do it all day long over and over, or if you just want to pick the tool up and for it to work, it's going to be, corded is going to shine. And they also have more power, and in some cases, they're just going to, they're going to be lower cost up front. A corded tool almost all the time is lower cost than a cordless.
That's been such a favorite. You can see the sticker on it. I just try and keep that thing going. It's been to the tool hospital a couple times for emergency work and some, bring it back to life. But it's just, again, you find a favorite and it works and it's good, heavy, beefy tool and it just keeps going. So I'm going to keep it going as long as I can.
Is that an old spline drill?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And
so
it's a
that
variable
doesn't even
speed.
have a clutch in it, does it?
Mm-mm. And it's got a variable speed, see that little orange wheel on it, so you can speed it up. So if you're drilling like a small hole, like I got down to a 3/8 and it'll go up, it's supposed to go up to 1.5 inches, that type of bit on it. I suppose the core bit, you go a little bit bigger, but yeah, I don't know if I guess you can still buy the splined tools for them, but yeah, it was one of my favorites. And you can chip with it too.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, got something?
No, I was gonna say these new SDS drills though, they have those spade bits for them. I don't know if they make them in the old roto, the spline type, but I've dug a lot of holes and moved a lot of dirt with a roto hammer when it's packed hard like concrete. It's a very valuable tool to own.
That clay spade we used to call them, was just like a miniature flat shovel that go on that you can,
Yeah.
Now I'll have you guys know I wasn't sleeping. I was just leaving you guys be. You're doing a great job, and I didn't want to ruin the mojo or anything like that. So I was taking care of some comments on the back end too. We had a lot of great comments from a lot of the viewers. Just some random experiences of getting flung from a ladder and whatnot with the whole hogs and everything like that. So that's always it's funny to hear about and read about. Obviously not to experience firsthand, but yeah.
So the topic for the showdown today, and we struggled with it a little bit, is okay, your truck is on fire. You can only grab one thing. What do you grab? So who wants to start?
Eric, I'll let you go first because you stole my idea and now you just get to run with it and everything like that.
See, Cody he's just you're just bitter because each time we've done this together, I beat you.
As long as we both beat Max, we're fine. I don't care. But I can come in second. We just got to beat Max.
I think Max has lost every time.
Every time.
I'm 0 for 4 on the season. I've got I followed the criteria of the argument properly today. I've got a single tool, and it's my iPhone. This would be the one thing that I would grab. And I've got a whole laundry list of things that I would benefit from having that iPhone next to the smoldering truck. So do you guys want to present your tool ideas first, and we can kind of go back and forth?
I guess with a phone you could call 911 if your truck's on fire.
The argument could be made that you do have insurance and that maybe you want new tools. So do you grab any at all? However, when you've worked in this industry long enough, that's really hard to assemble all the right tools, right? And so I made the argument that I was going to grab one tool that housed all my favorite tools, and that's my tool bag.
Oh, so you got away with like a one handle kind of spin on this.
It's one tool, right?
Still a single grab, I guess.
Yeah, come on. I don't know why you got to grab your iPhone when I have a tool bag. It's I likened it in our argument on email as like a bird's nest. It was carefully assembled. It had a job to do. The cargo was precious, just like a freshly laid bird's egg that's gonna be looked over by its mother until it hatches. Here I am, 20 plus years in this business, and it took me so long to come up with the tools that went in that bag. And I love every single one of them. I didn't have them in this argument for a reason, because I wanted to bring them up at the very end. these are the tools I would grab, because what a pain in the butt it would be to have to go to work to pay for my burned down van without the right tools in my hands.
And you could go to work to the next job while your truck was burning because you got your tools with you. Just take an Uber or
Max
hitchhike
would
down
have
the
to
road
call
to
an
the next
Uber.
call.
You know, like
Or they'll find you in the North Country frozen with your bag of tools.
Your cold dead hands.
Your phone. Will be in Fargo.
I'm a man of conviction. Put it that way. I've
Now,
taken my guns.
Now here's my idea. I was a big fan of the tool bag. I was a service guy for 10 years. You wouldn't notice by my button-down shirt and my very clean hands, but I was in the service side of things for over 10 years. And I thought about it after Eric stole my idea of the tool bag. And I thought to myself, you know, the one tool I would take off my truck is my lunchbox. And I figured it was the only way I would get to sit down for an entire half hour uninterrupted and eat my lunch is while I watched my truck burn. It would be a nice ambiance and everything like that. I swear on all that's holy, I never ate a lunch just sitting in one spot. I was driving, shoving a cheeseburger in my face, or you know, whatever the case may be. I never got to sit down and eat a nice lunch. So I would take my lunchbox.
And you could hide a tool in there.
I could. My iPhone too.
Your multimeter, your phone.
So this is cordless. This is a cordless tool. You can order more tools with it. You can ride, call an Uber. It's a camera. It's a mirror. It's a
I suppose
data.
you could get an egg salad sandwich with it from Uber Eats too. So I mean, you could do lunch with it as well.
Yep. You can sit on the floor and check your email with this. You can be on Instagram posting about your truck burning. I think this is a pretty easy argument to win that this is the most valuable thing that's in your truck right now.
And you could put that little Danfoss spinner tool on there too to see if your pumps are spinning, which is a free out. There you go. My desk is spinning. A lot of power here.
Yeah, that pump's on this big particle board.
It was just practice.
Okay, there we go. All right. Well, do you guys have any other final words for your tool argument, or should we open up the poll?
I just want everybody to know that if Max wins, it was just out of pity because everybody's just, you know, like, I don't know. I just want to get that out there before.
All right,
yeah, I think it was way too easy to pick your iPhone, for goodness sakes. Like, I'd pick my iPhone. Yeah, just like I'd pick my oldest son, right? You know, like, because he's my favorite. No, I think the tool bag is the winner. It's one tool that holds many tools, like I said, like a bird's nest, a precious bird's nest. I don't know why you're throwing baby birds in the fire, Max. I don't understand why you're doing this, like animal cruelty.
Frozen bird's nest.
Frozen bird's nest on the road somewhere outside of Fargo. All right, well, let's go ahead and launch this poll, and we'll let the audience decide here. So Eric's tool bag, my iPhone, or Cody's lunchbox?
Cody isn't even gonna vote yet.
Come on now. Hey, there we go.
Cody's on the board.
Okay. Cody called the neighbor and said, "Hey, go down this pole."
Exactly. My neighbor Rose. She's a very nice lady.
All right. Well, I think we're starting to level off here. No, it's
still moving a little bit. I think it stopped now.
All right. Well, I
think it's statistically impossible for you guys to win.
So I don't know if you can see him. So Eric got 63% of the vote. I got 24%, so at least it means that I did beat Cody, and Cody got 12% from some hungry viewers who were waiting for lunch in their trucks or something today.
12 or 1.2?
Hey, come on now, that was 12%.
All right, well, at least I didn't lose 100% of them all the way at the bottom of the scale, so I guess I'll take that into the fall season when we bring back Shop Talk Showdown, and we can go from there, and hopefully I can win one of these. So that takes us to our giveaway.
All right.
So we've got actually 2 giveaways that we're going to do today. We'll do, why don't we do the wrench first?
Okay.
And then the second tool will be the press tool. So what Mary's going to do is she's going to steal
spin the wheel.
Presenter mode, spin the wheel, and then I'll line it up with our registration list and see who that is.
Okay.
Well, I can tell you that is a hard act to follow, gentlemen. But Max, you're on the scoreboard, kind of, you know.
Kind of,
don't
yeah.
you
I'll
think?
take that to the company meeting at least.
So, can you see the screen? This is the big question. Alrighty. Gonna spin her. Here we go. Cross your fingers, audience.
This is for the wrench. This is for the offset wrench.
Oh, it's really spinning. I'm getting dizzy.
Okay,
All right,
Max.
let's see. Okay,
We have a
find
JB15.
JB.
All right, let's see what we got. It's probably some initials.
Okay, so JB15 is Jacob Washberger. So you get the
Cool.
offset wrench.
Okay.
So now let's spin one more time. Let's see who gets the
Alrighty.
press tool.
Congratulations, Jacob. Now the big one.
Rigid press tool kit. We'll get this back out on the rigid logo up there. Not that tool though. That's a smaller tool than the big winner here. Okay, so GC27 is Gary Cooper is the winner of the rigid press tool. So we'll get that sent to you. And
Congratulations.
starting to turn into shop dog showdown.
Shop dog.
Our today.
Yeah,
Yes.
come here.
So that takes us to the end of the presentation here. If you have any questions, did we miss anything, Cody, that we should pull up
You
here?
know, I was going through here. There's a lot of very specific ones, but we got some time. So, you know, there was a question about your experiences, you know, and I have some experience with it as well, but probably not as much as you, Eric, about combustion analyzers. What your, you know, any recommendations, good bang for your buck kind of thing for combustion analyzers?
Yeah, well, so I've used a variety of them over the years. I've bought and owned them all myself. You know, I've look at what you need to try them out. You need to hold them in your hand. You need to see what you think is the easiest to use. Currently, I'm using one. It's a German tool named Rohr, and the reason why I like it is everything is on one screen, and so it's a touch screen tool, which is nice. It makes it a little more expensive, of course, but everything is on one screen, and that really ultimately makes it the most usable tool for me.
Yeah, I was gonna say I use TPI stuff. I've used Testo stuff, and I was a big fan of the Testo because you could change out the sensors on your own without having to send it in and da 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 and all that crap. Because it's always, you know, it never failed where it would go down in like the midwinter, you know, when you needed it the most.
Calibration's up, yeah.
Yeah, and you got to send it in, and then it's going to cost you this much money and everything else. And so that we did the Testos for a while as well, and I like those too. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ones out there, but yeah, for sure.
I used the Bacharach for years because they did a lot of training for the industry. Whenever there was an event somewhere, Bacharach always, you know, offered training, which I thought was nice. So I said, well, they're supporting the industry, so I supported them, and I've only had 2 of them, so it's not like I've had a lot of experience with different ones. But I like that one that Garrick has now. I've watched it, probably you on Instagram demoing that with the, again, all the high-tech features and the screen and being able to use the app and stuff like that. All makes sense, and capture all that information, because mine had a printer which you had to line up, you know, infrared printer, get them lined up, and at 85 batteries later, you're getting a little ticker tape.
Yeah, if you do still use the printer, take a picture with your phone, your valuable iPhone tool, because that will either turn all white or all black after a while. And if you just, you know, tape that to the boiler or something like that, you're not gonna have any idea what that said later, especially if it's warm in there. And then the other thing is, don't put that combustion analyzer into the exhaust of your truck. I used to be a rep for some combustion analyzers, and we would get that quite a bit. But like, hey, I got this new combustion analyzer, and man, it really spiked.
Put in the diesel.
Right into the diesel truck or something.
Or a wood boiler will ramp them up too pretty quick.
My favorite though was the PPL heat exchangers, those plastic lined heat exchangers in forced air units and stuff like that. When they would start to delaminate on the inside, you could smell the exhaust before you ever found where the exhaust was coming out on the side of the house, and those would peg the combustion analyzers too. But you smell those and your eyes start to water. I mean, you knew it was bad. So.
Yeah. I will say one thing about combustion analyzers. So when I started and I bought my first one, I bought what was the most affordable, and it was meaning in that, I mean literally the lowest cost. And I learned over time that that wasn't necessarily the right tool for me. So it isn't always, you know, you get what you pay for, and that's, you know, like, just because it's expensive doesn't mean it's the best that's out there. like I meant what I said. If you have the opportunity to try and hold on to these things and have somebody train you, like Hot Rod said, like Backrack does the training at the time you were doing a lot of stuff in the industry and you recognize that. If the company that is going to try to sell you this, like $1,000 device that you're not quite even sure how to use, or you've only used one and you're looking at another and you don't know anything about it, they should train you. It's an expensive tool and it's very complicated, really, like until you're super familiar with them. So get them in your hand, get the people in front of you, have them teach you how to use it. It's important, I think.
And what the readings mean. It's one thing to say, oh yeah, I'm here, and matching it up to what it says in the manual, but what does all that mean? And if it's off one number, what screw do I turn which way to get it to, dial in? So that's what I liked about Backrack, is they explained the whole thing, not just a tool. Well, this is what you're using this tool for and why and how.
Absolutely.
And I think they still have a lot of online training for people that want to learn more about that, or what is the NCI that's always at the shows, the National Comfort Institute that does a lot of combustion analyzing training too.
Yeah, and another tip for combustion analyzers too is if you're working on equipment that is starting to spike a little bit, if you unplug the hose at the combustion analyzer, instead of trying to pull it out of the vent or something like that, you save some seconds of getting that really high CO reading that can spike your meter. So if you pull it out really quick, just right at the measurement point, you don't pull a whole hose of that really high CO combustion or whatever through.
Good point.
Yeah, no, you're on track there, Bob. That NCI, it was Jim Davis. Somebody commented in here his classes, and I was signed up to take his classes when I was still in the field, and he canceled last minute because there wasn't enough registrants for the Madison, Wisconsin classes, and I was like super duper bummed because I was pretty pumped about that one. So
yeah, he does a great job, and I'm sure you can find it online, or he's probably got some YouTube stuff out there. But yeah, he's one of the best for.
Do they have gas in Madison? Do they have modern appliances there?
Yeah, and and running water and everything, flushable toilets and everything.
This must be new.
I know. It's pretty classy.
At the mayor's house or something.
Yeah, it's the governor's mansion. Yeah. There was one more question.
Mind me, I'm just from Minnesota.
Yeah. The land of less lakes than Wisconsin, anyways. So, anyways, there was another question in here, and this one I have no opinion on because I never cut PVC this big. But they were asking, what would you guys recommend for cutting 6-inch or larger Schedule 80 PVC or CPVC? Any suggestions?
I do. I have a suggestion.
What's that?
I think miter saws or chop saws, or to be honest with you, I know it's large diameter and it's hard to cut on a stationary saw like that.
Yeah.
And maybe this isn't the same. There are specialized tools made for cutting pipe. Exact, something like that. There's a really cool pipe cutting saw. And I think Rothenberger makes one as well. But to be honest with you, when I worked new construction, commercial and residential, we cut PVC with a circular saw and a fine-tooth blade. And I know it's probably not the safest thing in the world. I acknowledge that. That's how we did it, and it works really well once you get used to it. Large diameter PVC, like the thick stuff, Schedule 80. Like the question, cutoff saw, like a gas or battery cutoff saw is what, like a concrete style saw is typically what I would see used out in the field.
It's funny you should say that because I've been working for the last week on, we got irrigation here in this place that we bought. So I've been doing some 6 and 8 inch PVC, and I just got a really long hacksaw blade for my Sawzall. And if you mark it, take a piece of whatever that goes all the way around, cardboard or something, mark it to follow the line, because it's hard to keep it straight all the way around 8 inches, but it actually cuts pretty quickly. And as long as the blade reaches all the way across it, if you try and cut through it, you keep stabbing the end of the blade. But a long hacksaw blade and a recip saw can do it too if you're careful.
I've got one last story for you guys. You talked about that pipe vise, and as soon as I saw an advertisement for that pipe vise online one time, and I was like, man, I wish I would have had that. There was one particular day that I was taking a gas manifold off of a gas valve for a furnace, and I've got the 2 wrenches, and I'm trying to hold it all and everything like that, and the wrench slipped. I put a hole in my jeans that went from like my crotch all the way down to like my knee on the job site in a customer's house. And I'm just like, oh, I wish as soon as I saw that pipe vise, that brought back like flashbacks of nightmares of me walking around with, my shirt untucked because oh yeah.
It's a cool tool. It really is. They make a nice tool. It's very useful.
Yeah, for sure. Again, wish I would have had one. But.
Hi, Kurt, by the way. I see Kurt Albershot from New Mexico on there. I haven't talked to you in a while. Nice that you could tune in. All right, anything else? What have we got for time? How are we looking
I
here?
think that takes us right to the bottom of the hour. So well, there are probably a couple questions that we can get back to you after the presentation. But thanks again for tuning in, for the support from Mechanical Hub, for the tools from all of our tool partners this season, but Rigid today. And we'll see you again in the fall. We'll kind of figure out what the format will be and time of day and things like that. So if you do have feedback for that, feel free to send us an email, and we'll pick it up after kind of a summer break. So thanks for attending, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, team.
Thanks,
See you
guys.
guys.